If I had to guess, you clicked on this video because something inside of your marriage, inside of your home isn't working. And you've heard all of the advice from the internet influencers and gurus saying the exact same thing. Date your wife, put your phone down, be more present, quality time over quantity time. And while those tactics are relevant, they're never going to work, because if you don't change this one piece, all of those things are just gonna be band-aids on an artery wound. And so today in this video, we're gonna rewind the tape a little bit, and we're gonna actually build the foundation that is needed to make sure that those tactics that you hear every single time can actually be used to build the marriage and the life that you want inside of the four walls out of your home. I'm Sergio Nazzaro, and I help married businessmen just like you who are fighting the battle of being a good husband, a good father, and making money actually build the life that they want without sacrificing themselves and burning out. So let's get started. First off, I'm not a marriage therapist. I'm just a guy who fucked up his marriage, chasing money and chasing success and chasing attention, because I thought that if I just made more money, that all of the problems in my life would resolve themselves. But somewhere along the way, my marriage got worse and worse. Somehow, making $45,000 a year and being $27,000 in credit card debt was a happier place in my marriage than when I was making $960,000 a year and me and my wife were on the brink of divorce. In fact, I've told this story many a times. We were in this exact kitchen when she took her rings off of her fingers, slammed them on the table, and told me that she fucking hated me and that she hated this relationship. Which just went to show me that no matter how much money I was making, it never was gonna solve the problem. And so this doesn't come from theory. This actually comes from lived experience. And listen, man, I get it. I've tried all of those things. Quality time, present, put your phone down, take your wife on vacations. Everything that the internet gurus and the influencers are telling you. And here's the problem with it. When you implement those things, but the story inside of your mind, but more importantly, the state of who you are being as a man is in chaos, none of those are gonna work. They're gonna work short term, and you might get some quick hits and some quick results, but in the end, after a few weeks go by, or maybe even a few months, if you get lucky, you're just gonna go back to your old ways, and before you know it, you're gonna find yourself in an even deeper pit. And so from the guy who has dug himself out multiple times, trying a bunch of different things, today I'm gonna show you the one thing that's going to unlock this entire game so that when you do those things, dating your wife, taking her on vacations, quality time with her, putting your marriage first, putting your phone down, they actually work because of who you are, not what you do. So listen, I know I've been talking shit about the influencers and the gurus, but this framework I'm about to introduce to you isn't even mine. It's from the GOAT, Tony Robbins himself. And I heard this the other day, and it got me to thinking a lot about all of the strategies that I've tried to fix my marriage, to help it get better, that seemed to work short term, but inevitably it just always fell apart. And that's where we're gonna start. You see, the very first place that most men look is strategy. Why? Because strategy is something that allows you to take immediate action. It feels safe. It feels like something to do. In the case of you trying to change your marriage, doing is never going to be the thing that's going to fix it. And so the strategies that I tried to implement, number one was date your wife. Date your wife again. Remember when you hadn't slept with her? Remember the first time that you met her and you're like, hot damn, this girl is attractive. You see, my wife, she used to be a Denver Broncos cheerleader. And I saw her for the first time and I was like, you know, I don't know how we're gonna pull this off, but I'm gonna plan some pretty epic date nights to see if we can build some connection and then hook up. And she was aware of it, so she kind of pushed me off for about 12 months until we finally reconnected. But when we did, I was planning these amazing date nights. And then somewhere along the way, between roles and responsibilities, building a business, having kids, you forget to date your wife and you just fall into the ruts and the mundane life that every man falls into. And so I tried dating my wife. I would plan these dates and I would go out with her, but inevitably on the car ride there, after planning this whole thing, we'd get into a fight. And then we'd be sitting across the table from each other at dinner, not talking, on our phones, just eating. We would just go home after it. And even when the dates did go well, there's always this undercurrent of these things that were running through my mind that would always sabotage the date. And so dating your wife alone was never gonna be enough. The second one was be present. What the fuck does that mean? You hear all these guys just be present, put your phone down, right? Be where you're at. And even I've said it. But when you can't be present, when you're not fully there because there's these narratives and these stories in the back of your mind that are running the entire thing, you can't actually be with her. And so even the moments when I would sit on the couch at the end of the day and I would carve out this time, like there's no Netflix, there's no phones, she would be talking and I would be trying to listen, but the reality is I was just waiting to respond. And so it didn't matter that I was trying to be present, because being present was never gonna be enough because of everything that was going on inside of me. The last one that I tried that just thought would work, vacations. And here's the thing, this was kind of the home run ball. when we were at our absolute worst and I didn't know what I was gonna do. And I was laying in bed planning my escape route, only to realize that she was doing the exact same thing. I thought that I had to step in the batter's box and swing for the fences. And the reality is, if you're in this place and you have to hit this home run ball, it's because you've neglected all the small things. And even if you go on vacation, yes, you might have amazing vacation sex. Yes, you might have this really beautiful connection while you're there, but it's only because of the absence of the real world that has faded away. When you come back home, it's still gonna be present. So strategy alone, while it feels good and it's something that you can do, it's never gonna be the thing that's going to allow you to build the marriage that you want. Because what's preceding this and what's actually running the show is this level right before it. And these are the stories. These are the stories that are in your brain that are the undercurrent of every single action that you take. And so I had a lot of beliefs about my wife. One of the beliefs that I had was, she doesn't care. She doesn't care, and so I'll have to do it. I'll be the one who's gonna lead this relationship. But it came from a place of anger and resentment. It wasn't from a place of love at first. I just figured I had to show her, I had to do more. Yet anytime I did those things, those strategies that we just talked about, and the story that was the undercurrent was, she doesn't care, that's how I would show up. The thing you need to realize is how you choose to see your wife is exactly how you're gonna see her. Another one of the stories, she's lazy. You know, being in the military for 11 years, one of the things that was really important to me was just cleanliness and order and timeliness. And we would have these amazing conversations and we would get on the same page, but inevitably things would start to fall apart around the home. And it's not because it was anything to do with her, it was just the normal way of life. But every time I just saw her as, she's lazy. And so even when I would plan a date night and she was 10, 15, 20 minutes late, it didn't matter that she looked like an absolute smoke show and she put all of this time into getting ready and actually was like putting the effort in. All I could ever see was that she's lazy and she's not on time and she doesn't respect me. And that was kind of the third story that was running my life. She doesn't respect me. She doesn't appreciate me. And when that's the narrative that is running through your brain, I just want you to know this. It doesn't matter what your wife does. She's never gonna be enough. And so I can give you all the strategies in the world, but if these stories are running your brain, it's never gonna change anything. Which means we actually have to go back one step further. And this is where Tony gets it right. And this is where he spends the majority of his time on. We have to focus on one simple thing. And I don't say that because it's easy. I say it because it is simple. And that is the state of you as a man. This is your energy. This is your perspective. This is your internal belief about yourself. And these internal beliefs, they've been given to you by coaches, mentors, parents. You have beliefs about yourself from the failures that you had, whether it was business failures or financial stress or marriage failures or dad guilt. All of these things were just running through my brain, and the state of who I was being was very shaky. It was very uneasy. It was very unwelcoming at times. And so it didn't matter what I did because the state of who I was in those moments actually ruined everything. And so before we can even get to any of these strategies, we have to focus on the state of who you are. I want you to consider for a moment that your state is actually dictated by the way that you see yourself. And the work that I do with all of the men inside of Standard, both one-on-one and in my 12-week group program, we start here. Because when we change the state of who you are internally, your external world, which includes your marriage, your money, your relationships with your kids, your fitness, and your relationship with God all changes. But one of the hardest parts for a man is to remember who the fuck he is. Because it's buried under all of these other things that you've been given, that have been placed upon you, whether that's from culture or society or any of the other things that I just mentioned. And so the exercise we're gonna get into right now is called irrefutable evidence. I want you to sit with this for a second. I want you to really sit with this. Who you are is not what you do. Who you are was shaped by what you've went through. And when we forget what we've overcome, what we've had to persevere through, what we've created, we forget parts of us. And when parts of us are completely shattered and we don't see ourselves as worthy or as valuable, or we don't love ourselves, which I know sounds like some real white girl shit like doTERRA oil woo woo, but just sit with me for a second. When we don't love ourselves, we can't love the people that we say we love the most. Our wives, our children, our friends, our family. You can only love somebody as much as you love yourself. And so what we're about to go through, this exercise called irrefutable evidence, is the very first step that I have all my men take in order to reclaim who they are and remember who the fuck they are. The exercise we're about to get into is called irrefutable evidence. And as much as I talk shit about influencers and internet gurus, I mean, Tony Robbins is the GOAT, but it's also this guy. I don't know if you know who this guy is, right? This is Alex Hormozi. And there's one quote that he said that has resonated with me and actually led to this exercise that I'm about to lead you with. confidence is about how you see yourself, and confidence is actually rooted in love. And the quote that he said is, confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. It comes from stacking irrefutable evidence that you are who you say you are. And so as you're watching this video, I want you to pull out a piece of paper, and at the top of the paper, I want you to just write the following: irrefutable evidence. Now, I believe testimony is one of the most powerful things to allow you to experience this. And so I'm going to share my story a little bit so that you can see how this exercise flows. And it's also going to give you some insight so that you might overlook some of the small details in your life that are actually major milestones and pivot points in your life that have shaped you and made you into who you are. In 1996, my parents lost their home. We were down in Texas. Both of my parents got let go from their jobs, and we were homeless for a few months. My parents left Texas to move to Colorado, and it was one of those moments that forced me to grow up faster than I had expected to. It also led to this next moment in 2001, which many people will remember, was 9/11. 9/11 happened my senior year of high school. It was the first time that I felt God placed this calling on my heart that I was meant to go out and to serve in the military. You see, we didn't have any money. My parents weren't going to be able to afford college, and I was coming up on the very end of my high school career. And I wasn't the best student. I cheated in Spanish. I got D's in woodshop. But 9/11 was this calling on my heart. And so I ended up going to the Air Force Academy. And in 2007, I graduated from the United States Air Force Academy as a second lieutenant. That was a moment in my life that allowed me to finally step into this place of serving and fulfilling my very first calling that God placed on my heart. The Air Force Academy is rigorous. You have to go through combat survival training. You have to go through basic training, which I went through 2 of them. You have to constantly be in this place of this military environment that is a high pressure cooker, high academics, some of the best in the world, and at the same time, staying in shape and playing sports. And it was this container that forced you to become a leader. And so graduating from the Air Force Academy created this identity in me. 3 core values that I can't forget: service before self, excellence in all we do, and integrity first. In my time in the real estate, I felt this prompt again on my heart, and I was like, what is this? And so in 2012, I called down to the Air Force Personnel Command, and I asked them for a deployment. And for the next 7.5 months, I was in Afghanistan. And I would fly out to small forward operating bases, be on the back of Blackhawks. Never had to raise my weapon, but I saw a lot of different things over there. In fact, the very first day that I was there, I remember our base had incoming rockets or mortars coming in, and the sirens were going off. And I'd gone through all of this training, but I didn't know what to do in that moment. And so I cowered, I laid down on the ground because I was so scared. My training had failed me. And you fast forward 3 months while I'm still in Afghanistan, and I'm standing there in a shower. I'm butt naked. I got my loofah out. Don't judge me. Loofahs can like clean your skin real nice. You feel real good when you use a loofah. But I'm standing there just like loofahing up, right? I got these suds going on me, and I hear the sirens going off again. Incoming, incoming, incoming. And while the first time I was deathly afraid for my life, this was the first moment that I had accepted that this might be the moment I was going to die. And I didn't move. And I had this thought in my brain that just said, if it's my time, it's my time. That moment was a pivotal moment in my life. Those 7.5 months in Afghanistan taught me how to deal with stress at the highest possible level. You see, when I got back in 2013, for the next 2 years, it was party time. I got out of the military, and I just turned to drugs and alcohol. Like, I was just out there, I was partying, I was sleeping around. You gave it to me, I was gonna put it in my body. I didn't care. But you can only suppress that for so long. And over the next 2 years, I could feel the tension building, and I would just kept pushing it off or numbing it with alcohol or cocaine or Molly. But I was doing all of these drugs trying to suppress it. And in 2015, it finally came to a head, and I had to actually raise my hand and say, hey, Mom and Dad, I gotta go get some help. I'm not in a good spot. There's suicidal thoughts. There's moments I didn't want to be here. That type of work is not easy. You see, the military builds you to be a killer. And while I was in the Air Force and I didn't really ever shoot my weapon, the military builds you to go to war. And so to be able to have to raise my hand and be like, hey, I'm not doing okay. I need some help. I went into therapy. It was the first time I actually stepped into this personal development work, and I had to overcome these demons that just wouldn't leave me alone. And for the next year, it was the constant work that I was doing. As I finally got to this place of peace in my life, and I was just finally happy with who I was, I met my wife, Lizzie. And we were in a place where we started dating. I felt like I could finally be in a relationship where I wasn't thinking about other women. I wasn't trying to party. I wasn't trying to escape it. I just wanted to be. Somewhere along that way, the love I had in that relationship and the confidence I had built in myself finally gave me permission to step out of corporate America and the safety and security that everybody promises you with your 401k matching, which is all just bullshit anyway. And I stepped out on my own and I became a real estate agent. And I'll never forget 2017, my wife was making $45,000 a year. I was making nothing. We were $27,000 in credit card debt. It was one of the happiest spots in my life. And so what did I do? I proposed to my wife. I'm showing you all of these little moments because all of these little moments matter. There are a series of decisions that in the face of adversity, when doubt and fear and worry are at play, there's also love, peace, and connection. And all of these are shaping me and building me. Because the moment I got down on my knee and proposed to my wife is the moment everything blew the fuck up. In 2019, our engagement got so bad that we actually called off the wedding. And not only did we just call off the wedding, that same year, because the stress was so high, because I was fighting a war in my business, trying to build a real estate business, and I was fighting a war at home, the stress was just rising and rising and rising, and inevitably I ended up having a heart attack in the same year. And I remember sitting in that hospital bed just being like, you know what, I'm glad I'm here. I just this venom and this anger towards my wife. I'm so glad that you get to experience what it might be like for you to lose me. And as I say that, I understand how fucked up that sounds. So don't think I'm like that falls short on me. But that's the mindset I was in. Yet that was also the catalyst that led to the next moment in that exact same year is when we started couples therapy. Look at this. Each one of these moments, you're gonna have one of these. And it's important that you document them. In 2021, 2 years after we started couples therapy and called off our wedding, we finally get married. There's no financial stress. We actually paid for our own wedding. When one of the reasons we called it off was because we were fighting about money. 2 weeks later, we find out that we're pregnant. One shot, one kill. I didn't expect to get pregnant that fast. I didn't even know my swimmers worked. And it's funny, they tell you in high school, careful, you might get your girlfriend pregnant. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get a woman pregnant? So when I found out that we were pregnant after our wedding, I was like, oh, here we go. More stress. In 2022, when our son was born, we also decided that my wife was going to be a stay-at-home mom. So not only did I become a dad, but I also became the sole provider. My wife was making $140,000 a year, and so we stepped away from that, and I stepped into the role of trying to not only just cover that gap, but also be able to create the ability for us to have healthcare and security. 2023, I leave real estate to become the founder of Standard, to help men like you become better husbands, fathers, and entrepreneurs because I blew up my marriage. 2023 is the same time my conversation had in this exact spot when my wife told me she hated me. 2024, I went from making $960,000 a year to making nothing. Or in 2024, actually, it was also when my second son was born. I traveled 175 days out of the year that year, constantly putting more pressure and pressure on my wife. And in 2025, in the face of adversity, with no money coming in, with my identity be stripped away from the attention that I used to get in real estate was gone, the applause had ended, the money wasn't coming in, and so the illusion of confidence and power and certainty in my bank account was completely gone. My marriage was on the brink. I built this. Not just built this, but I actually solidified it. Standard became what it is today. I've been a coach for over a decade, but Standard last year was the first time that this thing really solidified. I shared this irrefutable evidence with you because just like me, you have these moments. And once you go through and you stack all of these moments chronologically, I then want you to go back in and I want you to look at these little moments in between 23 and 2015. Like what happened here? What was I doing here that allowed me to, again, these are the minor moments. These are the major milestones, but in between there's little ones. Like once we called off our wedding, I then had to tell my wife and have the hard conversation about us going to therapy. I had to lead it. I had to book the therapist. I had to find one. These are all the little moments that are gonna fill in the big milestones. The big milestones are the pivots. The little milestones are the stories that you've forgotten. And here's the thing, when you stack this irrefutable evidence and you see it on paper for the first time in a long time, you're gonna remember who the fuck you are. And now the state inside of you, this state that we've been working on to create, this entire thing starts to open back up for you. Because when you see yourself for who you are and you recognize and you reclaim the man that you are, your entire state shifts. When you have love for yourself and you have confidence for yourself, which is what every man really wants, and you have respect for yourself, the stories start to change in your mind. And so then when you go to execute on these strategies of dating your wife and being more present and quality over quantity, they actually work. Not because the strategies changed, but because you as the man changed. So brother, here's what I want to leave with you. The moment that I got clear on who I was, who I am, the things that shape me, I started to see myself differently. The chaos in my home started to dissipate and it was replaced with connection. The eggshells that we were both walking on actually led to deeper connections because my wife finally felt safe. She felt seen and she felt loved, not from what I did, but from who I am. And have you considered for a moment, it doesn't matter if you do the dishes more or take out the trash or pick up the kids if it's from the wrong spot. But when you remember who you are and you love yourself and you have confidence for yourself, you start to show up differently. And when you do that consistently, everything inside of your home changes. I promise you, me and my wife are more connected now than ever. We'll have been together 10 years this December. And I can honestly say that I love her more now. We have a better relationship now. We're more of a team now, that our sex life is better. Everything about our marriage is way better than when we first met. And from this place, I can build anything because I'm no longer fighting the war at home. and the war in business. I actually have a teammate and a foundation and a woman that supports me and loves me because I can finally show up for her as the man that she needs simply from who I am, not what I do. And you can have the exact same thing. So I want to encourage you, go through this exercise. And when you're done, if there's something more that you want, the next step that I take my men through over 12 weeks is the standard sequence. We're running that right now, and there's room. We're opening up some more slots. So if this is something that you're interested in, click the link below. Or I would encourage you to do this. Watch some more of my videos on YouTube on this exact channel. Come check me out on Instagram and get to know me. And if it feels right, click the link in my bio and book a personal one-on-one call with me. And we'll create a plan just for you so that you can build the life and the marriage, not that just that you want, but the one that you deserve.